Episode 2. And as this podcast has no intros before, then I will kick it off straight away. So we are still talking about Baltic hacker houses, builder houses, hacker spaces, whatever you call them. First episode was about Base Collective, and Jonas shared overview about how they did their thing. So today we are traveling to Tallinn, Estonia, and we'll be speaking about ruum. After Base Collective was launched, I think several months later, we'll clarify this in a second, the next hacker house popped up, which was ruum. And today I have Helery Pops sitting next to me, and she will be the advocate of ruum. Unfortunately, Lisa couldn't make it today. She didn't feel well, but I think that we can still unravel quite a lot with just Helery in the studio. So, hey.
Hello, hello.
And as I said before, it's partly funny to record episode with somebody you know quite well, but here we are. And to be honest, it's not about us today. It's about the initiative and the trend that has been feeding the Baltic startup industry for a year now, I guess. New founders, new initiatives, new teams, something that's still partly being missed in the market. So, let's kick it off with the basic. Some people know you, some people don't know you. So you and Lisa, what's your background before getting to ruum?
I got my career started in startups. I studied finances and accounting in university, realized very quickly that I never want to do anything connected to that topic in my life. And I got offered a job at Pipedrive. Since I was living in Madrid at the time, they offered me €1,000 for relocating to Estonia. And it was the most money I had ever seen in my life. So I was completely sold. And from there, I worked in different startups, both software and hardware, until Ragnar Sass called me one day and said, hey, let's start a fund together. I'm pretty sure that at first I said, no, I know nothing about funds. And besides, I was working at Ampler Bikes at the moment, and I liked building bicycles. But then it became a reality. I started investing, started Googling about how investing works, and then met Lisa when I was working at Praktika Capital, a Lithuanian fund, which I guess you know as well.
I know.
You know, great. We worked together a little bit with Lisa there. She helped me out with some events, and I have a notoriously bad memory for details. I don't really remember stuff that well. So I had to call Lisa the other day and ask how this got started. She had to remind me. But she came, I think, home from Lithuania one day when she had been to Base and met the team there and was like, why isn't there anything like this in Tallinn? And I said, I agree. We should have something like this in Tallinn. And from there, everything just went really, really smoothly. So to address one of the questions you might have, then Base and Lithuania was a big inspiration for us. I think thanks to that space existing, we got the idea of creating our own. But I think the way that we did it was looked a lot like us.
In your own words, what is ruum?
For us, the problem that we were solving was that there are young founders out there who don't have a space where to work from. Your option is to maybe go to Lift 99, where you pay quite a lot for a table that you might not have this resource when you're just starting out, or you're in your parents' living room, or you work from cafes and pay $4.50 for lattes. Not ideal either, and especially when you want to work with someone else around. So that was the starting point for us, just to provide this space where they don't have to give away their equity, they don't have to give us any money, somewhere they could just come together, build and test. And I don't think it worked out that way in the end, but at first we saw it as a sandbox, sort of that maybe you can focus on a new problem every week if you want to. In the end, we didn't have any teams that did that. They were all focused on their one problem. Maybe they pivoted a little bit in one direction or another, but essentially they built their thing. So yeah, to bring it all together, it was just a space for people to come together and test out their ideas without having to fear going bankrupt immediately.
And to go maybe a bit more narrow, so what is it that was specifically missing in the market? Was it just the space, or it was some instrument of motivating people or enabling people, or how would you maybe narrow it a bit more down?
I think it's a combination. For me, the physical space is super important. In every work where I've been, I felt the need to be inspired by the space where I'm in and the people as well. And this is what we wanted to offer. We didn't see anything like this on the market. And one thing that added to this as well was that we were lucky enough to get spaces in the Krudli quarter quite early. And it felt like a place where we wanted to bring people together.
So how did it start? So Lisa's coming back. She's like, let's do this. You're like, yeah, sounds good. Let's do it. Next step, or walk me through from the idea from 0 to 1, basically.
That was the first thing. Lisa came back, was like, why isn't there anything like this? I said, let's give it a go. And I had already had a conversation about this with the people from Krudli, that if there's any ideas that you could bring more startup-minded people to Krudli, then we're all ears. And then I had something to go back to them with. We got the space where we're at right now at a very good price, thanks to them. And actually, the way we started coming up with our program was that we created a one-pager and we started sending it out to everyone we knew and allowed all of them to comment. So I guess the way it all came together was sort of like a hive mind. That everybody said what they believed that this should look like. This allowed us to get some visibility for it. This allowed us to get money for it because people started seeing it, and it helped us create the program as well. I think it came out to be pretty good, although the program is like no program, sort of. But yeah, I think that was one of the keys to success, that we didn't think that just me and Lisa could do it from 0 to 100, but we included as many people as we could. And thankfully, everybody wanted to be included and everybody was thinking along from the get-go.
Okay, and then the acceptance or the model, how was this built up? Sent the one-pager out, you allowed people to comment, you took the best practice, I guess, or the best advice, you implemented it to the program, and then you released it in which way, or how did you get to the people?
I think it's good to say that everything was sort of learning by doing as well. We didn't ever have like a very specific detailed plan on how to go. We knew that we wanted to be flexible, but the way that we did it is that we sent our one-pager out to as many people as we could. We advertised it as much as we could on LinkedIn and on Instagram. I must say that we didn't, in our opinion, we didn't do a really good job with this. Like maybe we got a press release out, but show me like a 19-year-old that reads press releases. And we did a couple of podcasts as well, but to our surprise, we got a lot of applications. I think we got 110 people who wanted to join the selection hackathon. From this 110, we chose 50 people who could come to the hackathon. And from there, we chose in total 11 teams. But before this, we had already, I think, 1 or 2 teams who we had spoken to directly that they would come anyway. Because as I said, at first, we weren't sure if anybody would even want to come at all. So we had a couple of people already in mind who we advertised this as a 3-month free co-working space. But everything turned out so much better than we could have ever anticipated. People wanted to come. There were teams that we wanted to accept, but we couldn't because it was oversubscribed. And the teams who did join, so I think there was 11 of them, they were great. All of them were there full time. They did their best, and I'm really, really happy with the result.
And then the program, so after the acceptance hackathon, you selected the team, they started hacking, so they physically moved into Ruum. They started kind of working, building, and delivering shipping there. The program itself, did you have it thought through, or it was basically evolution on the go as well? You know, things coming to your mind, you're executing, building, or how is the program structured? There
was the only one thing that we knew that we all wanted to do together, and that was the Friday Retro. Since we accepted teams that were very different, we had teams who had actually raised money already, and we had teams who met at the selection hackathon, and we had teams who were doing software, and we had one team who was doing hardware. Then we realized that we can never put together a program that would fit everyone, but we wanted to fit everyone into the program anyway. So we agreed that the only thing that where everybody had to participate is the Friday Retro, and everything else would be ad hoc in a sense that we put the pressure and the obligation of speaking up to the teams themselves. And I think we got them pretty decent intros. We got them decent help, but they needed to ask for it themselves. And that's sort of how it worked.
And the teams, were there people who understand the industry, or what was the profile of the attendants or residents, and what was the biggest motivation for them to join? Why not building at home? Or
the profiles were quite different. I mean, there were people who had been building companies already. There was one 17-year-old who hadn't built anything. But I think the average room builder from cohort 1 was like a 20 to 22-year-old who is just very smart, very motivated to build their own thing. And they came there because they saw that they had others like this around them as well. I would definitely point out user journeys here, for example, because they had their own space. They had already, I think, rented an apartment where they lived and worked together. So they were all set on that front, but they still wanted to come to room because I think because the environment that was created there, thanks to the other builders, was just very good, and that was the goal as well.
With the user journey, quick side note, when I first met them, one of the founders, Henry, told me the story that they landed a big enterprise level customer as a group of young builders, building some AI solutions for corporates basically. And this was really good gig that was paying quite well for them. So then they moved out of the apartments, rented an apartment for themselves, moved into this apartment, and then they thought, but actually there's so much room that we can actually sub-rent half of the apartment for more builders. So then they basically sub-rented half of the apartment for another bunch of builders. And like this, the first unofficial hacker house was born because they were renting, sub-renting. And he described that people were sitting on two sides of the living room, user journey bunch on one side, and some guys who rented it out on the other side. And it was basically organically or naturally created hacker house. So I think it's really, really cool.
And this was actually, we also had one retro at their apartment, which was great. So it was.
Oh, you've been there?
Yes. All the teams went there. We did one retro there, saw their place. It was a nice collaboration there.
To tease, I think we'll touch it, but User Journey have done quite well until now. I think one of the names to highlight when it comes to Ruum, making it to the YC, turning down the YC, and then going their own direction. But yeah, let's get to this a bit further down the road. So you mentioned this only rule: you have to deliver something every Friday, like Demo Friday, and you need to do something. How strict was it, or was it more of a PR, you need to do this, or you were actually strict enough to, for example, disqualify or send teams home if they don't kind of deliver on this?
Thankfully, we didn't have to be too strict because the people were really there. I can't tell you right now whether we would have been like emotionally prepared to actually send someone home, but it never came to this. There was a team, for example, Ear Candy, that was founders who were studying at Tartu. They weren't there during the week, but they came for Friday to do the retro and then stayed building for the weekend. And I remember Friday where they had, I think a math exam or something. So they quickly pitched and then went to the other room to do the math exam online. So I feel like everybody really wanted to be there. And I don't know why or what exactly was this one or two details that created this kind of space. But thankfully we didn't have to enforce this. But thinking about it now, I think if there was somebody there who we really saw that wasn't interested, didn't want to come, then we probably would have said, like, why bother? Like, of course, we didn't give any money or anything either, so it wouldn't make sense for anyone to be there who really didn't want to be there.
And so all of the teams made it through the whole batch?
Yes, all of the teams made it through. Not all of the teams are building today anymore, but I think that is okay as well, because they will definitely start building new things down the line, and I think they will bring what they learned at Ruum with them for the next endeavors. And that was the entire goal, right?
And did you measure it somehow? Because there was a winner of Room Bachelor or Room 1.0. What were the KPIs or the criteria? How did you score this, or what did you follow when the teams were hacking?
So this is actually one thing that we discussed a lot after it. And being very honest, I don't think we would do this again, this choosing the winner, because the winner was built and the build team is awesome. I think they exemplified everything that we wanted from someone building in Room. It was not that they just built their own company very passionately, but they were very open towards the others as well. They gave feedback for everyone. They thought along. They, bought soap when there wasn't any in the bathroom. So definitely the win went to the right place, but we didn't actually have any very good KPIs to measure it. The build team raised money during the program. I think that's why they won as well. But perhaps you can't really compare somebody who raised money starting from where they started to somebody else who maybe did 50 customer interviews and actually learned what they needed to build. So in that sense, this is a good learning for the next time, that if you don't choose companies that are very similar to one another, then it's really not that fair to choose one winner. And
last one of the program, maybe you also had, I think, 3 public demo days, or whatever you call them, show nights, where you invited a local community, not actually local, there were some foreign funds flying in, so tech community who are following Estonian markets coming in, and you were then showing them what was the progress, pitching the teams, telling about the plans, learnings and whatnot, and just creating this, actually for the last year, I would say, in Estonian market, like the warmest moments within the tech for me personally, because I think it was very unorganized in a good way, in a sense that it was so ad hoc and it was so random that it worked like perfectly. So what was the logic behind creating those? Did you specifically wanted to take those as community building, uniting moments, or what's the logic behind doing those 3 publicly? Because everything else was non-public, and I think you were not too happy to kind of make other things very public.
So for the Friday retros, we did invite tech community people to come and give feedback as well, which I think worked well. But since they were so crowded, then we didn't want to let everyone join it. It was 11 teams. In the end, we were there for like 2.5 hours pitching, and everybody was really tired in the end. So it wasn't the place where we could include everybody. But of course, we wanted to show what we were building, what the others were building. And I feel like the 3 events were like just 3 very good parties. I think I ended up dancing on tables at 2 of those in the end. But that doesn't take away from the fact that they were well organized, in a sense that the format was fun. I think the first one was very classical pitches. You had 11 pitches with no Q&A, so it went quickly. Everybody got to say what they were building and show as well what they were building. The second public event, all the guests could choose a table to join. So it was like a bunch of round tables. If you felt like you wanted to understand how to build mobile apps, then they joined the Build Me team for 1.5 hours and got to know in depth how they were seeing the problem. And the third one was set up like a talk show, which was just, I think, first of all, fun. And secondly, it was great to hear what the founders thought of the program itself and the 2.5 months that they had been building, and not just to show, again, the demo of the product. But to answer your question, actually, we just, of course, wanted to show everyone else what we were doing as well, and invite people to these very awesome rooms that we have there at Kuruli.
And looking back at the results, are you happy with what you delivered in those 3 months?
Oh, I'm very happy with the results.
Let's get into this. Tell a bit more.
If I'm not mistaken, then maybe 5 teams continue building today. But since the idea at first was that everybody can come and use it as a sandbox and they don't even have to create a company, that if they don't want to, then this went above and beyond. That one team got accepted to YC, and at least one, probably more, have raised money by now, and others are still building. So, and I think that best takeaway and best compliment for us is that when the cohort ended, then the teams didn't want to leave. So right now, since there's no active cohort going on, then we got the space to work as a co-working space. Thanks to Krulli as well, we're able to give them the tables at a very low price. We just pay for, internet and cleaning for the price they pay us, and they still keep working from there.
You still go dancing on the table sometimes?
I haven't in a really long time, but I should change that soon.
Do you miss it?
Yeah, absolutely.
The impulse, that people are saying, let's maybe expand on this. The hypothesis that I'm operating under for a quite substantial amount of time is that, we struggle to deliver a new generation of founders, builders, you call it whatever the word is. I think Ruum was one of the kind of drivers that potentially could do this. Do you think that it has fulfilled the mission for this, or is it still ongoing, or how do you see this?
It has fulfilled the mission, and it is also still ongoing. I think there's first order effects and second order effects. We can see those 5 companies that still keep on building, and Built, for example, is organizing, 4 or 5 hackathons now every month, which is definitely driving more people to come and build. But I think there's a lot of things happening that we don't see either. People who got inspired just by coming to the demo, or they have met someone from a team that was building at Ruum, and either they want to join the next wave of Ruum, or they just start building themselves. And this is this thing that we can't see is even a little bit more exciting for me than what is tangible at the moment.
And then another question that I actually just generated while listening to you is last episode when I was recording with Jonas, he said that the model of accelerators on the market is far from being ideal to suit the modern needs of new generation of builders. At the same time, now when I sum up the program that you described, just listening to it, it actually, on the surface, describes every single accelerator on the market. You get a badge, you invite people who can give them feedback, you do some public demonstrations of the progress, and then you graduate, while some getting the prizes. What is your take? Is it what is maybe is it different, first of all, and then what is the biggest difference on the classical accelerator model, or why is this so hypey and so kind of different, while on the surface it sounds the same?
Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe it's not different. I think we were just at the right place at the right time, and we managed to create a very well organized community around what we were building. And this has been the ethos from the beginning as well, that if we see that this is no longer working, that it is becoming very similar to everything else, and the teams don't have that quality anymore, then we'll either think of something new, or we will stop. Where we don't have like, okay, we must do this for the next 10 years, exactly how we did it the first time, or it will be a failure. I think it has already been a success in the format it was. We will stay flexible and keep on keeping our eyes open about what is needed on the market. And I think this way we're able to provide value to the founders as well. So it doesn't have to be that different. I mean, maybe you can compare this to like new funds, right? You could say that it's all just money. How are funds different? And they're not. At the end of the day, it's all just like money and the connections you can give to the founders and the brand you put behind it. And
you mentioned quite many times that you got lucky enough with Krulli, who kind of offered the place. Let's maybe zoom in a bit about into the business model, or how you run it. So do I understand correctly that this is pretty much non-profit organization, at least the first batch that you've done? Oh yeah, there's no business model whatsoever. This was just based on support from the community. So we were supported by Scala, first of all, Startup Estonia secondly, and then a bunch of other people as well, starting from Okko, who gave us all the free furniture, and Dark Legal, who sponsored a party that we organized. So there were very, very many people from the community who wanted to see us succeed, and they helped us out with this. And at this point, I wouldn't want to make it into a business. I think it works really well the way it is. That
that it's the community that is bringing up this next generation of founders. Of course, this may change. Maybe in a year when we're sitting here, I'm going to say that this is what's going to make us millionaires in the next year. But right now, I highly doubt it. And I hope we will still have the support of the community rather than having to start making money off of the founders we accept.
But it's hardly sustainable in a sense that if you want to think long-term and future, it is very tricky to maintain it. Let's say, we're lucky that we have so amazing people like Taavet and Sten and Kristina who are supporting this and Startup Estonia as an organization. But let's say focus changes. Let's say that they get back and say, unfortunately, this is not the focus area that we would love to sponsor or partner with. What is the alternative? Or don't you think that there still should be somewhat of a business model around such an initiative to make it sustainable and long-term?
I think it's, first of all, emotionally very tricky because you're constantly working under the assumption that you don't have any money, that every conversation that you have is like, but maybe you have some like support you can give us. So that way, yes, it is very tricky to build something like this. But I think it's not a problem right now. We will definitely be able to do the next batch without making it into a business. And what happens after this, we will see. It's a problem of future Helery and Liisa and maybe Tim.
Okay. Since Baltics, we want to be the best. Every country wants to be the best in everything that we potentially compete in. So even in hacker houses, Base gave a good signal to the market. They launched first, then we kind of followed. Then Shipyard in Riga started. What would you say that there was any competition between, or you just kind of took the motivation signal in order to do something yourself? From what you know, what is maybe similar or different to those two organizations?
I think we're quite similar, and yes, Shipyard I think opened a little bit after us, but we were of course very open in sharing how we had built this, and I think it's a very good thing that they did what they are doing too. So I haven't sensed the competition. At least for now. I mean, in the summer we want to do another batch, and maybe I will not be that positive later if we figure out that everybody has gone to Shipyard or Base, everybody who we would like to accept to Ruum, but it hasn't become a reality yet. I think, at least at the moment, there's still space for each country to have its own or maybe even multiple hacker spaces like this, but perhaps indeed down the line, maybe there will be some consolidation. Who knows?
Why no collaborations until today?
Why no collaboration? We'd love to do collaboration. I think one idea that we were discussing was that the teams from here could go maybe to Lithuania and vice versa. But to be fair, the first cohort that we built up with Liisa, it was just the two of us. I have a full-time job at the same time as well, and I think we just didn't have the bandwidth to do as many things as we set out to do. There's like a big list of things that we would have loved to do, and no collaboration with Base or Shipyard I think just falls under this category of just not having enough time or resources to pull it off.
Good that you mentioned. I mean, where do you find this resource to build? I mean, it's quite substantial. It may look as just one hacker house, but knowing a bit of a background story, there's a lot of work that needs to be kind of taken care of when it comes to, managing with the teams, managing partners, managing capital, and so on. Where do you find this resource to keep those things or to kind of deliver those things?
I have a full-time job at Enefit. I'm trying to understand the world of energy as well, which is great. But my role there is, I like to call it disco lead, but discovery lead in the long term. My role is to find startups whose technologies to put into use in the energy sector. So there's a little bit of an overlap. But at the same time, yes, it's quite challenging. It's still weekends and evenings and doing stuff out of my free time. But then again, what is free time, right? Some people go to paddle classes. I build a hacker house. I see it as a hobby. What
is the biggest motivation?
Very good question. I think I just like the energy that I get from the founders that are there. I'm now 33. The founders there are like 20. So I see a big difference in how they think, and this is super interesting for me. And I think if I didn't put emphasis on actually putting in the work to meet them and to understand how they think, then I wouldn't know. I would be very stuck in my own bubble.
Looking into the future of ruum, so now you have concluded first batch. There has been quite significant gap of silence. Let's say you mentioned that the teams had a chance to stay in the room and use it as a co-working space. What is kind of the future? Practical and also maybe a bit philosophical, in the sense that if we establish that the mission is to cover the niche and kind of enable new people to give them an opportunity, then don't you think that it maybe needs to be more systematic or kind of more continuous in order to achieve this goal? Or what's your take on this?
Yeah, I actually agree. From the practical point of view, we have every intention of doing a new cohort very soon, hopefully much bigger than the last one. I think we will have the resources and the space for it. We are not just 100% ready to shout it out yet, but mark your calendars that something like this will come. And on this philosophical point of view, then I also agree. I think there needs to be something more systematic to it, whether it's something that happens every day of the year, or whether it's cohort by cohort once a year. That I can't tell you at the moment. But the way I see it is I think pre-seed investing is changing quite a lot. You don't need a pre-seed investment of like 100K or 200K now to prove what you're building. You can do this on your own, essentially, and start taking in VC money when you already have a working product, because it doesn't require hiring back-end and front-end developers to prove what you're building. So I think this is the space that we can actually cover, like doing sort of due diligence for pre-seed teams that after this how long this program is, can say like, I now know what I'm going to be building, I know who I'm going to be building for, and I have the first thing ready, and this is what I can show to investors.
But how to achieve it without constantly running batches?
We might have to constantly run batches. That's completely an option. The one thing that I can't say at the moment is exactly how we're going to do it, because I, first of all, don't know. And secondly, we also want to stay flexible. As I mentioned before as well, it's especially now, it's an ecosystem that's changing really quickly and constantly. So we have to change along with it as well. So we're trying not to put ourselves into a very strict path.
And just to elaborate, it's an interesting point. So we both, I think, agree that it is a bit more quiet time in the Baltics these days, that there's less action maybe happening to what it used to be. I've been also quite vocal on the fact that, we still talk or partly brag about very old success that we have built. It's still cool and great, but I mean, what's next and what's new? Why do you think we have this kind of downtime at the moment, or kind of this slower period? Is it because it's natural switch of generations and there are so many things that maybe it takes the market or people time to adjust? Is it the potential come down of something very successful previously and now it's kind of picking up, or maybe there's something third? So what's your take on this?
One of the reasons that we realized when we started doing the first cohort of ruum is that these are very uncertain times. Anywhere you look, everything is exploding and everything is on fire, essentially. And I think that's not a very good environment for people to quit their jobs, for example, and start taking the risks of building on their own. And maybe those are the effects that we're seeing. But if I look at the younger generation, if I look at the people that are coming to ruum, that are reaching out to us to get the experience to build something, then I'm really hopeful that this will change, that maybe we just have this little gap now at the moment where The new things that are started haven't really reached the mainstream knowledge yet, and the older things have already kind of like moved out of the way. So yes, there's a gap there, but this is why we started Ruum as well, right? To get this new generation built up and hopefully ready for filling in the space.
And I was talking about this with Triin Hertman, who is now the president of Estonia Founder Society, and we were both on a podcast. And one of the angles that we kind of tackled there was that there's not enough maybe support or push from the local ecosystem, existing local system, towards the new generation. And Ruum was such a standout specifically because it was a very massive and very kind of vivid push towards this. Do you agree with this statement that there's not maybe enough push and that funds or organizations need to be supporting those kind of initiatives more and maybe building their own initiatives? Or you don't feel that there is this dynamic or trend?
I think everybody could do more, but I also really understand how it's very difficult to do, because once you have your, let's say as a fund, once you have your processes worked out, I think you get a little bit less flexible, and maybe you just start seeing what you need to see. So you start looking for a company that has, I don't know, X number of customers and X amount of revenue, and you don't really think about the first step or how to make the pipeline bigger. And maybe funds shouldn't even do that. Maybe the places like Ruum should do that. So I definitely call for support for us and for other initiatives like Ruum as well to create this there's more of this momentum, but I don't think it's a tragedy that it isn't supported that much from the venture capital side. Or I don't mean that it's not supported, but I mean that it's not created by them specifically.
And also very interesting on your take, the whole trend of hacker houses. Working on Baltic funding report of last year, there was a clear trend that this was one of the highlights across the Baltics. I mean, just the trend of building those, the teams that were there got very good attention. There's some metrics that you can already see, Base team got into YC, Ruum team got into YC. That being said, the culture of hacker houses is quite old. I mean, it's nothing new. I mean, the hackathons have been kind of organized 20 years ago. Hacker houses have been very trendy in, the Bay Area 20 years ago and whatnot. What is your take? Is it currently just something unique for the Baltic states that was born maybe and is delivering new generation, or we're just kind of catching up on the global tech trends that were already happening before? Yeah,
I don't think you need to really invent the bicycle. I think it's something that's working. I think hackathons are some things that are working as well, especially if I look at what Built is doing. They are bringing a whole new generation into the same topics that already existed before, and that's great. It doesn't need to be completely new, and I wouldn't say that we're essentially catching up either, but right now is just the time and the place where this works. And since it works, then I think we need to push it more.
What is the future of hacker houses in the Baltic? How do you see it? More emerging, they merging between themselves, or how do you see this going forward?
The question that I would ask is that whether the Baltic hacker houses have potential to go abroad. And I don't know the answer. That's why I'm asking the question, because almost every country has their own hacker house or have their own hacker houses, maybe even plural. So I'm really interested in understanding whether there's a possibility for cross-country hacker house tourism or whatever that could be.
Okay, and now maybe a bit more fun part. So looking back at the first batch of Ruum, what was the biggest surprise that you had within the whole operation? It doesn't have to be specifically team orientated, but just the experience of building Ruum from 0 to 1.
It was how easy it was. How well everybody reacted, how much everybody wanted to think along, come along, give money, give furniture, give space, everything. It just felt like walking through a park with just green flags everywhere.
What was the biggest disappointment during this period?
I think that we didn't have enough resources to do some things that we wanted to do. I think there was a lot of opportunity, but we just didn't have the time or money to do it. Like, for example, to create a space where people would just come and hang out. That didn't happen, unfortunately. To provide hardware building companies with tools, that didn't happen. And there's another, like maybe 10 things that if I thought about it, I could list that we had thought of doing, but just weren't capable because it all went very fast.
And if you imagine what it should have been before you started and what it is now, what is the biggest difference between how you imagined and what it is?
I don't think I ever really stopped to imagine how it would be. Once we started going with this, it was just like a constant wheel of work and doing stuff. So we never sit down and was like, I wonder how this is going to look like. Because suddenly we had teams, suddenly we had the money, suddenly we had the space. So it just all came together very quickly. And now I can't think of any other way it would have looked. But maybe one thing that did very positively surprise me, I remember the first demo day that we had, when all the teams had pitched, I was just in awe how well they had pitched, because you and me both, we have been to like 1,000 pitching events where people are very bad at pitching. And it's fine. If it's your first time pitching, maybe you're not great, maybe you're nervous, maybe you don't know what to say, whatever. But we had not taught these 11 teams ourselves at all. And I think they were all nearly perfect. There were people who came up and asked, like, who is your pitch coach? Who helped them create those good pitches. So that was a very good surprise. And
actually, I agree. And, it's a bit of sliding sideways here, but I think it's a really good point. And I've been actually thinking about this and discussing this topic because indeed, all of the teams were very clear on what they were doing and what was the ask and so on. Question to you, my hypothesis would be that it was done so well because none of them were imitating building a startup or imitating solving an issue or imitating doing something that they were not actually doing. Don't you think that the pitches were so good because they were genuinely interested in everything that they were doing, and it wasn't that they were selling something on stage, but they were just telling the story that they were personally so invested in and so kind of interested in, that pitch seemed very natural and very clear and very catchy.
Yeah, I do agree with this. And I would also add to this that I think they very much motivated each other as well. I think if you see someone next to you, like putting maybe the slides together or even practicing how to get the pitch done in 3 minutes, then you put in the work as well. And I wouldn't downplay the work that goes into being good at pitching. I mean, I still need to practice pitching ruum, so...
What would be the success of ruum for you? Let's say, at what point would you look at this initiative or the concept and be like, yeah, that's super cool?
Mm-hmm. I think it already fulfilled what we needed it to fulfill for the first time. But if we manage to keep up the momentum for, say, the next, 3 to 5 years, I think that would be excellent. And to keep up the momentum, I mean that we would actually be able to provide value to the teams as well, that it's not just like a conveyor belt, but the teams come there, they're motivated, they really want to get in, there's a competition to get in. That would be very cool.
And finally, one thing that you did, but you would not do again if running the second batch or when running the second batch.
Yeah, that's boring because I already said it, but I wouldn't choose a winner anymore. At least I wouldn't choose one winner like this. I'm happy that we were able to send Build to SF. I think that was great for them, but that I wouldn't do anymore.
Right. Future, you teased, nothing more at this point. What should we expect for the summer?
Hopefully something much bigger. Grulli gave us the chance to use much more space. So if everything goes according to plan, we will be able to accept about 100 builders for a period of 6 weeks into ruum summer batch, ruum summer festival, ruum 2026, however you want to call it. As I said, I still need to practice pitching this. But more volume, more people, and hopefully a place where all tech people can come and hang out as well. This is like one of my dreams, that it becomes sort of like Fotografiska is now, but for builders, that you can meet everyone there if you're just there long enough.
And is there something I haven't asked, but you would definitely like to highlight before we wrap it up?
Maybe I would just want to bring out my co-founder Lisa once again. It was very me focused at the moment, but this has been a 50-50 collaboration with Lisa, and I think we work really well together. This is something that's quite difficult to find, I think, someone you match with that well. So that has been amazing.
All right. Well, now we heard two stories, Lithuania base-based ruum, Tallinn, and next up I'll be recording with Shipyard Riga. So stay tuned for this. Thanks a lot for the time. Thanks a lot for the story. And I hope that listeners can pick at least one new thing that they didn't know about ruum from this podcast.
Hooray!
Chop, chop.